All right, welcome to Raise the Bar, the Sky High and Fly Jump Camps podcast. My name is Troy Haynes. I'm your host, and I'm here today with a young man from Norway. Is that right? Abraham
Yes, indeed.
Vogelsang. Were you
Yeah.
born and raised in Norway, Abraham?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Abraham is a decathlete. He's currently, you're still under 20? Is that right?
Under 20, yes, junior.
He's junior over there. Over here, that would be college age, I guess, but we're still learning about. I'm finally getting to peek behind the curtain at people in other countries and find out what goes on over there. I've been seeing these under 18, under 20s for a while, so I know I get the age part. So Abraham is a decathlete, and I was just I haven't gotten to my lead in yet. I saw him first on a feed, I'm sure it was his, where he jumped 6'8" at a competition and had the most outrageously awesome knee drive I think I've ever seen over a jump of significant height. His knee cap itself had to be up at about 7'8" or higher. And I remember in the comments, somebody said, his knee drive looks kind of weird, and like, I have made it a rule, unless it's something positive, that I don't usually get involved with people that say things that I either consider rude or, uninformed or whatever. And I remember I just couldn't help myself. And I typed in, "Are you insane? That knee drive is good for like 7'8". Like, what are you talking about? So that puts you on my radar. And
Nice.
he was gracious enough to let me do a post, I believe.
Yeah.
And, got a lot of likes. I remember that. And then we've kind of kept in touch as far as, I've been following his feed and seeing what his results have been, and had the great idea of doing my first podcast here on Raise the Bar across countries. So this is the first all-time Raise the Bar where we are going live to Norway. So Abraham, how the heck are you? You told me you were injured for a while. How are you?
Yeah, that's correct. I've been injured for 3.5 months now, but it's going well. It's progressing. I'm doing better for each day. So super positive. I will actually be competing in 1 month in Finland, a competition called Nordic. So for those of you guys that know geography, it's like Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland have like a big competition. Okay. And it's a decathlon competition. So there will be my chance to qualify for the under 20 World Championships in Colombia, Cali.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me about that. So yeah, Colombia, that's the big meet. Okay, so
yeah,
you've got that coming up now. What is this injury that you're battling to overcome?
Well, I got the injury I had a very good season last year. So I have progressed a lot. I progressed a lot in pole vault, progressed a lot in high jump, long jump. So when I was training, I did stuff to my body which had grown a lot, and my body wasn't kind of following it. Right. So I got a stretch fracture in my back at L4, grade 2. Felt quite random because I didn't have any of the symptoms, which I got early in December. Got the diagnosis in the 22nd of January, and just came out of training, or just came out of the injury now.
Rehab.
So
we call that rehab over here. So injury lab.
Yeah, rehab. Yeah, okay. That's correct. Yeah. So like, I had a high jump session on Thursday, I believe, and that was like, I jumped like, you probably don't know, but like 190 from 4 steps, and that was pretty big for me because I've been out of shape and training.
Yeah.
So
okay. I am catching up on my metric.
That's good.
Horribly underprepared when I was in high school over here, as teenagers.
Yeah.
Everything was feet and inches. So, 6 feet.
Yeah, right.
6 feet was the first barrier that we came upon, the so-called barriers, which I know don't exist with you guys. I don't know what the big numbers are over there. I don't know if they're just, everybody knows their regional records and world records and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
6 feet, 7 feet is a big thing over here. It probably doesn't make much over there, but
the only thing I know about feet and inches is like things I've seen on TikTok, have to be like 6 feet tall and stuff like that.
Right.
Nothing else.
It's so weird.
So
Our cultures are separated by that, and it's
mm,
I'm always confused because they try over here in the United States
yeah, okay.
to do the metric when you're at the meets now. So at the high school
Oh,
level, parents usually are running the events or maybe in a coach, and nobody's
yeah.
been taught any kind of protocol, so they just go feet and inches.
Uh,
But when you get to big meets, especially
mm,
at the college level, that was my first experience when I was at UCLA. They started
yeah,
talking
right.
metric. So they're like, okay, we're going
Mm,
to 2 meters. And I'm like, okay, what's 2 meters? And they're like, that's 6 and
ah,
3/4. So I'm like, okay,
all
so
right.
6 and 3/4. I knew what that was, but 2 meters meant nothing to me. So it was like,
Mm,
and eventually it's kind of caught on, but it really took a while because I remember the first time I jumped 7 feet. I'm not exactly sure what it was because they didn't tell us. It was like,
oh, really?
so it could have been 213, it could have been 214, it could have been 215.
Yeah,
I knew.
right.
So
Yeah,
if
yeah,
any of those would work, and it's like, okay, well, which one was it? But it didn't really
yeah.
matter. It was 7 feet. But
Yeah, right.
um,
But still,
I look back at meet results after the fact, and it turns out sometimes it was either more or less than I thought it was. So
yeah, yeah.
a small
So
matter.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
small matter, but it's quite a barrier. Like when I see posts on Instagram from the US, because yeah, US is a big track nation. Would
Yeah.
love to be there. It's quite annoying because you have to like search up like what is 1 inch and what is 1 feet, and
Right.
especially like javelin and stuff. That's
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they add up fast too, right? So that's what's really confusing for us, I think, is I say us, probably most likely me, but when I coach all the jumps. So when someone comes up and they go, oh, I go, what'd you jump? And they go, oh, I went 1274. And I'm like,
mm,
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
yeah,
Yeah, there's no translation immediately in my head. I mean, I'm like, okay, 12 meters is okay. That's 3 feet per 12, so that's at least 36. And then I'm like,
yeah,
I start trying to calculate in my head. So
yeah,
I have a couple conversion apps that I use all the time. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, so
Smart.
that was 39.4. Good. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Mm,
So it's some of the distances get kind of daunting. I saw a post yesterday. Somebody threw the jab 97 meters.
yeah,
Is that a world record?
that
I'm
was great.
assuming, or is that
No, I
world
think
league event?
it was in Diamond League right in Doha,
Yes.
and it was the fifth longest throw, and it was the furthest of the non-European throwers. It was
Okay.
pretty massive.
So it was a big throw, yeah. And I knew as
Yeah,
soon as it was close to 100, I'm like, well, that's like 300 plus, big time, maybe
yeah,
320 or something like that. So um, I know that they haven't thrown the new jabs as far. This will tell you how old I am, Abraham. When I was at UCLA, it was 1982 was my freshman year,
yeah,
or 1983. So the jab was being thrown. The world record at that time was 330 feet.
yeah, over 100 meters.
Yeah, with the old, you know,
Yeah,
handle.
they had to change it, right?
They had to change it because people were going to get skewered. So they
Yeah,
decided they didn't want to kill anybody, and they put the handle farther up, farther back.
yeah, I think so. Well,
Something
at
like,
least make the javelin and not go as far.
right. Because if it was like this and you caught the wind,
Yeah.
they would just go. Yeah. So
Mm,
that was back then. It was I don't know what the throwing technique is now, but back then it was keep the nose up, and
yeah,
have it do that thing. They try to do it
yeah,
with the disc, right? So
yeah, right.
anyway, all right. Well, so the main thing that I wanted to get to was number one. How did you said you started off as a high jumper and long jumper? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Um,
Yeah, first I started off when I was like about 10 years old, doing like 60 meters. That's yeah, very common in Norway. Became like had the fastest time of the 10-year-olds in Norway. So that kind of
right.
led me into track. Before that, I did football
Yeah.
or soccer, and karate. I was very active as a kid.
Right.
Then I had a jump coach from Great Britain actually, who lives in Oslo, and started training me and my buddy long jumping and high jumping. We became very good at it. Could be like my first national championship was when I was 16, and I got like a bronze medal. I was super good with the one 204 jump. I think you recognized.
Right.
So the thing was that I had a very good relationship with my coach. So high jump and long jump was more than just the jumping, you know. One thing is just come to training and yeah,
Right.
do a thing. But high jump is like still now, even though I don't have the same coach because yeah, I've gotten better and yeah, other levels and stuff. But still, high jump is still one of my favorite events.
Right.
Uh, with long jump as well.
So do they, now that you're at this level, do you get, I wonder how coaching works, you know, where you are, because
Yeah,
here
yeah, I can tell you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can tell you about it because yeah, in Norway we have a bit another system than in the US. You have like the schools is just for the academic stuff, and then we have clubs on the side as well. So the clubs are connected to the area you live in, obviously, and but they're completely separated from the school.
Right.
So when I was younger, I was like in a child club for only uh, boys and girls up to like 13 years old.
Right.
Then I moved over to another club, which is arguably the Norwegian's best and oldest club. It was founded in 1890.
Wow.
It's like have many good athletes. A silver medalist in Tokyo is the one is in there. Yeah, very many good athletes, and started a good group with decathletes as well. So now we're like three young athletes that are like born in 2001, 2002, and 2003 that are trying to beat each other's age record.
Okay. And so the coach for the club is your guys' coach. Now, do they have any like national coaches? If you get up to a certain level where you are the elite, you know, in the say the top 5 or 3 or something like that, do they all of a sudden say, "Hey, here's new coaches for you. We want you to get even better coaches"? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. The thing is that since I changed, I have it's like the two clubs that kind of are connected. So when you get to a certain age, you go to another club.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened very naturally, actually. But since I'm a decathlete, I can't only have one coach. You know, it's 10 events to coach. So I have like a pole vault coach, a long jump coach, a discus coach. Many different coaches. And I'm very privileged to have such a good team around me.
Right. That's awesome. So do you ever find that it's difficult to deal with so many different inputs? Like, is there a cohesion amongst all the coaches, or is there like a little give and take?
Obviously there's some friction, but that's very good. Me as an athlete, I don't get that. It's very rarely seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like very intern by the coaches. So if there is an issue, I won't get involved, which is a good thing. And so but about the clubs and national coaches, there could be a bit of a friction because, for example, to going to international competitions, you have to bring some coaches, and obviously I want to bring my coach,
right?
But everyone can't bring their own coach, right? So obviously that's going to be a subject of topic.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it is so different. Like you're saying over here, you know, whoever was my high school coach was a football coach, like American football.
Oh, really?
Big shot putter, discus guy, huge.
Yeah.
We called him Mr. Halstead because his name was Halstead. We called him Halstead. And, he was just, you know, he trained us more than he did anything else. And then, you know, so then I went away to college, and it was just so different. You know, for 2 years we didn't even have a coach at UCLA.
Whoa.
And
Are you serious?
I was trained by 2 older jumpers. And then when they graduated, they hired a coach. And then I sought, you know, coaching on my own on the side. I coached myself a brief period, you know, so it's different here, especially once you're out of college. I'm finding some really interesting dynamics over here because college you're kind of covered. And then, you know, here in the US, when you're done with college, like I didn't realize I had a training room at UCLA. I had guys in the weight room. And when you leave, it's like, you don't have that anymore. You got to find a place to train. You know, you're on your own kind of. And that can be a little bit daunting if there's nobody really to show you the way to go. You kind of find out. I was one of those people. I'm just not really that bright, I guess, but I would just kind of like blunder around and, find my way around eventually.
Obviously, that's
Not ask enough questions, I guess. But now having been on the outside of it, from the coaching angle for a while, it's still interesting to see how it goes here. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the difference between track and field here in the U.S. Like you said, we're a great track and field nation, but I keep thinking, we're crazy. A great nation because we have so many people that we've got track athletes, but it's not in the U.S. Track and field's really, and this may offend some people that are listening to the podcast, but I don't think track and field is as big a deal here in the U.S. as it is in other places. I mean, it's way down the list over here. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, volleyball, go down the list.
Is soccer more popular?
Oh yeah, soccer is hugely more popular here in the U.S.
Crazy.
Now, other people would argue, well, we still have plenty of youth, involvement, and we've got all the high schools in the nation have track and field and all that. But, really, I mean, if you can't see it on TV, it's not that big of a deal, and over here, you're fighting for TV time with these major sports. Rules over here. I mean, they've got a multi-billion-dollar TV contract that
I've seen that.
And that's just pro football. College football is huge in the U.S. and even high school football has its proponents here and there. And in some places like Texas, I'm sure they have games on TV. We have some of that here, even in California, the game of the week, or, some of the richer schools might have their own networks. It's just crazy. But yeah, track and field is not so big over here. So explain to us what it's like over there for you guys. Where's track and field on the list of the popular sports?
I would say it's not very popular, to be honest. And sports in general, it's mostly done for fun. It's like you get like scholarship in the States for being good in sports, but you don't get that at all. You can get like academy or academic rewards for being good, but it's not like the sports time away. It's just for fun. So that's puts being a good athlete is quite different than being a good athlete in the States.
Really?
And obviously soccer is very popular in Norway, but we are a winter nation. Skiing, alpine, snowboarding, stuff like that are so much popular because we get more medals in the Winter Olympics.
Right.
So the thing for Summer Olympians or good track athletes in Norway is to get like the view shifted from the winter sport nation Norway to a more summer sport nation Norway, because we do get a lot of medals compared to our size of nation or how many people we are.
Right.
So we are doing well, but we're not getting as many medals as, for example, United States, Italy, those countries.
Yeah, especially in the like you said, in the winter sports, I'm sure Norway's medal count is probably bigger. I mean, the U.S., I remember when I was a kid and Winter Olympics were up, women's figure skating used to be an American event, especially the singles with the women for the longest time. Pairs was usually the Russians. Men's figure skaters were up and down, in and out, lots of golds, lots of, very competitive. That has started to shift. But I remember when they first were doing like ski jumping, like American
ski jumping as well
didn't exist. It was like there was only a few places, number one, in the States where that was even thought of. And, these other countries just had a huge hold on that kind of stuff. I remember the first time we were doing the bobsled or whatever, you would see, you're like, okay, good, let's see this event because it's cool to watch. And then you're looking at it and you're like, where are the Americans? And they go, okay. And in 37th place, it's us. And you're like, God, we're like 5 seconds behind everybody else. And these things are moving really fast. So you're like, God, we're terrible, like, but nobody trained for it. So now they've gotten more of a push for that. They even, I think Willie Gault was the first of the American football players who was a sprinter in college that decided he wanted to push the sled so that they could get it going fast enough, So then there were some sprinters / football players that, decided to go over to the other side just because they say, hey, we need somebody to get this sled moving, So it's changed, but winter and summer, You guys, I'm thinking back now, you just said you're in a competition where there's the 4 countries between Norway,
Yeah,
Sweden, what were the other ones?
Finland, Iceland, and Denmark. I forgot about that one.
Denmark. So you got those
Yeah.
5, right? So that's pretty much the Nordic. Is that what?
Yeah, that's the Nordic. That's kind of the biggest in our area.
That's the biggest in your area. So, and out of that group in the high jump, Sweden has been very well represented with
Yeah, that's true.
Joberg
Stefan
and Holm both. And then, so what are some of the other big names in high jump over there, since you're such a high jump fan?
Yeah, the thing is that in the high jump there's so, like, I think it's a generation shift, because there are more people my age that are good in high jump that hasn't been able to jump, like, well, now I'm just throwing out numbers, but yeah, 220, 230-ish,
Right.
because of they're more like 2 years older than me. I'm 19, or 1 year younger than me. So it's like a new generation shift where they're more up and coming. So I wouldn't say there's so many good now, but Stefan's home son is, which I've competed against, is arguably one of the best now, would I say, if you think about his age.
Right.
Because I think he's jumped like, 217 when he's 16 or 17. That's very well.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So then what is it about the we were talking about that before. Now I saw your ranking at one point. Were you number 1? I thought I read something that you were one under 19.
Yeah, that's correct. I did the decathlon in the under 20s European Championship, and I was ranked number 1 in my age group. So that would be like under 20. Those are under 19. So 19 and 18 is the years that will be competing this year in the college. So I was ranked the best going into this year, which is a good thing. Right.
So does that involve college for you and all that? I'm still confused. You've got these clubs that aren't associated with schools, and then do they pay for you to train? Like, how does that work?
Well, I'm quite lucky because I have a good team around. I get some money from my club, some from my region where I live, to continue doing sports and play. I was in Portugal for 2 weeks, didn't have to pay anything myself, just got like sponsored, you could say.
Right.
So that's how that works. But you also could get like brand deals, stuff like that. But it's mostly like clubs and support from your area.
Right. So if any of the big names come knocking on your door and you're the number 1 decathlete, because within a few years here, you're going to be talking about Olympic Games and stuff like that, right? So you would think maybe Nike or somebody, or Puma or somebody's going to come by and say, hey, look at this kid, he's kicking butt, let's sign him up.
Yeah, I think that's I think that I'm always wanting to be it's cool to be sponsored by one of the big brands out there.
Right.
But I want to be feel like I deserve to be sponsored. I don't feel like I can just take a sponsorship because it's given to me. I feel like if I take a sponsorship, I have to feel I can give something to the sponsors, and the sponsor can get something from me.
Right.
Because I want to feel like honored to get the sponsorship.
Right.
So I feel like that's something I'm obviously thinking about now this season, where I'm the oldest. I can perform my best as a junior in my perspective, and I've just come out of injury, so I'm very ready for competition and prove myself.
So you have this one coming up, and that is a qualifier now. The Nordic one is a qualifier for the Worlds. Is that how that works?
The thing is that I took the World qualifying last year, but the federation want you to show form, so I have to do it again this year, which is a bit inconvenient since I've been injured. But you have to.
No pressure, right?
But either way, I have to show. I had to show that I'm good enough to be in the team and good enough to take some medals.
So what are your goals as far as point totals and maybe some of the performances? I know it's easy to say you want a PR, get your all the way across, but looking at the numbers and everything and knowing where you're stronger and which events and all that, like how many points do you think you can improve in the decathlon in the next couple of years? And then what's it going to take to go to the Olympics, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, right. I think I have to improve a lot, but I also know that I'm in a group and in a position where I can improve a lot.
Hmm.
I have a very good training partner and groups, which I think 2 weeks ago set a new national record in decathlon. So I
Hmm.
know that the training I'm doing is very well and it's working, which is not always the case. Sometimes it might be like you're training too much, training too little.
Right.
So I feel very good, like taken care of, which is a good thing. The thing is that it's always some championship records that are very tasty. In a decathlon, like 212 in, or now I'm throwing out numbers again, but 212 in the high jump and
Right.
5 meter in the pole vault is two records that are very, very tasteful.
Yeah. You think you can, those are the decathlon records for those, right? For your age group?
That's correct, under 20, yeah.
212 is like what, 6'11" or something like that for us. So just under 7 feet, and then 5 meter. I don't even know. 5 meters is at least 16 or 17 in the pole vault, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 16 feet.
Yeah. So are these you said you enjoyed the high jump and the long jump, but
That's correct.
when you're looking, so we know those are your favorites. What are the events that you feel that are weakest for you, or that you're having to work the hardest to improve in?
Well, I started doing long jump decathlon going all in for like in 2021 season.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2021 season. So I feel like I just lack training, to be honest.
Right.
Having decathlon is not something you kind of specifically go for. It's like something you try and then you just push on with it.
Right.
So I've done decathlons that are not gone so well, but the thing with decathlon is that it takes time to be good, because you can do one PR, you can do two PRs, but getting 10 PR, for instance, or doing well just around PRs is very difficult to do in one championship or one competition.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had a little bit of experience just this last season working with some of the heptathletes and decathletes at the college that I'm coaching at. So, I would be like one of your event coaches, but we also have a coach who's the multi-events coach, where he's kind of a strategist and we're laying out
head coach.
Plan. Yeah, he's in charge of them. But then, if he's not going to be there on a certain day, say, hey, why don't you work with the high jumpers today? And, we'll go over this. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm happy to work with anybody that wants to work with me. So take them over there. And then, a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but the heptathletes and decathletes that I have at Vanguard, like the very first day I met them, they came up and they said, okay, we've got 25 minutes from here to here, and we're going to come and do this. And then we're going to go over here, and there's like, they had their day.
Yeah.
It was like mapped out, they had high jump, and then they had javelin, and they had sprint work. And it's like, okay. So what are we doing? They're like, well, let's do some approaches. I'm like, well, okay, well, you run it then, cause they were like this, like, what is your plan? They're like, kind of like, we have a plan. I'm like, all right, I'm all on board with that. So you find your day is very regimented like that, all structured?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever trained one thing or one event at training. It's always like 2 or 3 events. Like today I did pole vault and discus, for instance, or the day before that I did hurls and javelin. So it's a lot of training to be done. So it's easy to feel like you've not been prepared enough before competition.
Right.
That's at least what I feel now, coming out of injury. But it's something with competing and trying to find a rhythm of everything and make a schedule that isn't too full, because you have to have some extra energy,
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the bugaboos we've talked about here on Raise the Bar before. And for those of you who may click in the middle, even though we're not a radio broadcast, I'm talking with Abraham Vogelsang, the number 1 ranked under 19 decathlete in the world, right? And he is currently getting ready to return to competition after an injury to the Nordic Championships, and he's using that. He doesn't really need it because he's already qualified, but they want to see that he's recovered and back in shape. we're talking about different training, and this has come up before, where overtraining was something that I was always, you know, I found out about the hard way. You know, all the way through junior high and high school, I always had shin splints. And then after my freshman year at UCLA, I got shown some exercises that took care of it. You know, that strengthened up my tibialis anterior muscles, and
Yeah.
basically my lower legs got strong enough to where I wasn't getting shin splints anymore. But they cost me, you know, at different times. And state meet at the high school level, my shins are killing me. You know, it was a 2-day meet. So the first night I took enough drugs where it didn't matter. I took a bunch of aspirin, and my legs were, you know, I couldn't feel them, and jumped great. And the next day we came back for the second day, and I literally couldn't take enough aspirin. You know, it was horrible. And then my senior year at UCLA, I had overtrained. You know, I was going for it. It was my last year at UCLA, and I was training hard, and everything was going well. And I don't remember there being a point where I think it was almost like you were talking about with your stress fracture in your back. Like I felt pretty good. You know, I was training hard, but you know, I was just going for it, and I did my icing and everything. But all of a sudden, man, it was like I woke up one day to the next. It was like all of a sudden both my knees were killing me. And I went in, they're like, yeah, you got patellar tendonitis in both knees. You know, we're doing heavy plyometrics, and, you know, I just did way too much, you know, and it's easy to look back on it now. So
obviously
what I was going to bring up with your situation is I'm thinking, you know, number one, nobody ever asked me to do anything other than high jump because that was my only gig. I wasn't very fast. You know, I maybe could have been a decent long jumper. I started in long jump, but it was like, you know, I just wasn't fast enough, and, you know, maybe a little pole vault, but we had people that were better at that at UCLA.
Yeah.
They didn't need me. So it was like, you just go high jump, do your thing. So, you know, I had to worry about overtraining just from one event. So I'm wondering, you know, someone like yourself, like you're saying, you got to be real careful about resting and overtraining, in that, you know, when something goes, it can really go on you. Like, as you found out with your back, right? And then, you know, you got energy for a big competition, and then it's like, that's why my question was earlier too about your coaches. Like, I think there's got to be some pretty good interplay.
Communication.
We can't overtrain these guys. You know, they're going to break if we overtrain them. You know, even though you're young and you recover fast, it's like something's going to snap. You know.
Yeah, the thing with the decathlon, I think it's you're becoming a very good athlete. Even though you might not get the big results, you will be training core, everything on your body. You train everything.
Right.
So I think you have a very good fundamental to take training, or foundation to take training.
Right.
But it's, as you're saying, like when I get my stress fracture, I was lacking sleep. I was tired. So the injury felt like out of nowhere, but looking back, it was just waiting there.
Right.
So it's important. And it's like now, even though I had the shot or pole vault session today, and I was like, okay, jumping on 4 steps, and my coach said to me, you can go on 6 steps. And I was like, are you sure? So I had to ask my head coach if it was okay to go on 6 steps, because I'm, you know, not because I don't trust my coaches, but, you know, have to just be sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, with 6 steps, you're carrying more speed, right?
Right.
More stress. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I could see that being a minor headache, you know. It'd be nice to have a support team, like you're saying, that's completely got it mapped out where you don't have to think. But then, you know, I know as an athlete, there's still those things that you want to have control of, and some say over also, I'm sure, as you get more experienced and you know what your body feels like, and, you know, the stresses that are being put on you. And, you know, I can only imagine with your, you know, lifting and running. I'm like, first of all, you said you started out as a sprinter, and I was just, I remember watching this last year at the Olympics. I loved the Olympics ever since I was a little kid. My mom showed me the Olympics in 72. I was 8 years old, and I was watching the in Munich, and you know, Dwight Stones was in the high jump for the Americans, even though I didn't know and didn't see. And I think he got third when he was in high school. And but anyway, that was track and field back then. And I watched a lot of gymnastics, and I just loved the whole thing. I didn't even care who won. You know, I was like, there's all these different countries, and you get to stand on the podium and they sing your song. You know, I was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And, I just grew up loving that. And then, you know, as I got older, I got to watch the Americans, you know, decathletes like Bruce Jenner, and, you know, the Americans used to dominate the decathlon.
O'Brien. Yeah.
Way, like from 76 back, it was almost always an American. And then, you know, Rayford Johnson, who was a UCLA great, won the decathlon in 60 in is it Rome? Rome was 60 and Tokyo was 64. I can't, he won one or the other. And, you know, just a great tradition, and, you know, just so exciting to watch. And then you start thinking about the training that goes in and the speed. That's what I was getting to, the speed of it. I was watching last year, and the guy that won from Canada, right, he broke the 100-meter record for the decathlon.
Yeah.
And he had a really good day in the long jump and the pole vault. And I remember thinking, I'm like, well, he broke the 100 record. I go, he's got to be fast. And I go, being fast, fast is everything. Fast is, you know, long jump, you know, hurdles, sprint, pole vault, you got to be fast, you know, javelin approach, you know, anything involving speed. And then I remember watching later, and just to confirm that, when I saw Krauser, you know, throw the shot at 6'6", I don't think I've ever seen anybody move as fast as, you know, in the spin.
Yeah.
And I'm just like going, man, everything is speed now. Everything is, there's really, you know, I was talking with someone last night about that. I go, you know, the 800 meters used to be a technical, like a tactical race, where they would kind of jog the first lap, and, you know, everybody kind of feeling each other out. And then somebody would go for it, and they'd all try to stay with them. And now they just run 2 fast laps. They run like 45 back to back, you know, 45 second quarters. I'm like, that's crazy, but it's so fast. Even the marathon, you know, what do they run? Like, they run 4.5-minute miles all the way through for 26 miles. I'm like, that's crazy. But, you know, that's speed, right? So speed is king. And, you know, you starting off as a sprinter, it's no wonder that, you know, that you ended up getting pulled over towards the decathlon, because all those events are, you know, benefited by great speed.
Yeah, speed is obviously a main factor. I would consider myself more of a jumper. I have like the long jump, high jump, and pole vault, which are my greatest events. But still, speed is very much key. I think the world leading long jump now is from a decathlete that is very fast.
Right.
So yeah, speed is obviously key.
Speed king. You've got, we were talking about this before, you didn't really allude to it. I liked it. You kind of slid by the question. I said, what were your weakest events? And you didn't even brush it off. Like, apparently Abraham doesn't have any weak events. So
no, that's not true. That's not true. It's obviously my 1500. That's one of my weakest events.
Yeah, well, that one was lost in the training, right?
Yeah, the last event, the 10th event.
Yeah.
The one you always go into the decathlon thinking, okay, maybe I can do 9 good events, so I don't have to run my ass off at 1500. But that never happens.
2020.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's obviously my 1500, unfortunately.
So how do they train you for that? Just in general, is it just like every once in a while they're going to throw in an 800 or a you know, how do you guys attack that?
Yeah. Well, I do actually have some. Started with doing more cardio, like 2 times a week after weightlifting, which has gone very well. Actually, when I had this stretch fracture, I ran in a what do you call it, treadmill, where you kind of was lifted up so you don't run with your full body weight, and actually only did and only did cardio. So it's not good or not fun to be injured, but I've learned a lot being injured and trained on things that make me weak and try to improve them. So my core, my condition, I try to improve what's my weakest points. So
I've heard that about the 1500. You know, it's the 800 for the heptathletes and the 1500 for the decathletes. So I wondered about that because it just seems like everybody, it's just like almost like
Yeah.
a trade secret. Everybody just pushes that off and just goes, okay, well, we're just going to tough it out. When we get there, like
Yeah.
never hear of any great strategies. And then like, sometimes some people are just gassing and dying. And then other times they're like, oh, they just PR'd by, 10 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good time to do that, at any one of those Olympics. But so what is it going to take for you to get into the Olympics? How much more do you have to improve point wise?
I think the most important thing is not like, oh, I have to run 10.6 on the 100. I have to do 8 meters in long jump. It's more about getting improvement every year, being consistently better at every event. Because with the decathlon, it's very difficult to get like crazy PRs. You can't do one very good event
Steady,
and then rely on that on the other 8 events, right?
Right.
You have to be significantly better on all the events. You don't need to have a PR, but close to a PR in almost every event.
Right.
And I think that's going to be key for the upcoming years, to have being able to push my PRs, so my results can be just under PR, so I will get a good score in the end, because it's like, I don't have to do anything crazy. I just have to be
break the world
consistently.
every event.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
So
it's not very difficult, but it's yet so difficult.
Is it like 8,000 points, or what is the total? I know there's got to be a number somewhere.
In the Olympic trials, I think it's 8,003 maybe. That's at least the world's is 8,350 or something.
If you took all your PRs and put them all the way across, what would you have?
Oh, I can check actually.
Like you said, it's hard to have your best day where you PR at everything. But if you were to do that, what's the number we're looking at?
I actually don't have it written down. Let's see. It would be 7,907 from last year.
Okay. Yeah, that's getting up there.
So it's getting up there, and obviously I have this season now, so it's looking very promising.
Awesome. Well, hey, we got you got recovered from injury. So my question is, how do we get you to become an international icon like Usain Bolt? Everybody talking about Abraham Vogelsang from Norway.
Well, I think it's cool. It's sad that we've lost such a good and cool idol as Bolt, because I feel like he was the guy that made people that isn't particularly interested in track and field watched it. And I remember like him running in Beijing, and I was like, I could have been in Beijing after that. I was celebrating so much. I didn't even know the guy.
Right.
The charisma, the talent. He was so fun, and he made everybody confident around him. So it's a shame that we lost him, and I hope there will be a new icon like that in the future, because that could bring in more viewers and more interest for the sport.
More attention, more interest. Absolutely. Well, there's you've got the interesting thing too, is it seems like you guys are on TV so much more. Like my senior year at UCLA was 1986, and they had just started a network called Prime Network, or Prime Ticket. And Prime Ticket told us that they were going to film 2 of our meets against Cal, a dual meet against Cal, and a dual meet against USC. So the cameras came out and everybody's set up, and we got all excited, and they were filming everything, and we're watching during the meet. We won both meets. We beat Cal in the rain, and it was like, okay, this is great. And we sat down because they go, we're going to show it tonight. Okay. So okay, great. So we sit down and watch, and they didn't do it. They didn't show any of the field events. They basically, the cameras were on the running events, and that was it. So they would show, the 100 and the 200, and boom, and it was done, and everything was quick. And then it was like they showed every lap of the men's 10,000. So 33 laps, they're talking about whatever they were talking about, and then we'd be looking in the background. We're like, hey, look, there's a high jumper running back over there, and the camera would go somewhere else. We're like, oh, we don't get to see it. So, and I could watch you guys, and then I see this, you know, I see the name and I see what the height is and all this other stuff. I'm like, oh God, this is great, you know. So I'm looking forward to seeing you. So is your career best in the high jump still at 205? Are we ready for something?
208.
208 now?
Yeah, at nationals last year.
Awesome. Well, I need to get more video of you, number one, because I'm fascinated with the knee drive. I don't know how strong your hip flexors are, but I'm a huge knee drive and knee ride guy. My
previous coach was also there.
Yeah, my coach, my high school coach, we used to just jump up and down the bleachers on one leg, and I was a double arm pump guy, you know. But I've been studying the high jump, you know, for longer now than I actually competed in it. So I've become convinced, no matter what style, you know, single armor, Fosbury reverse armor, double arm, whatever, the knee drive up and across is huge. You know, it's one of the biggest technical parts. You know, it's tied to your lean, but for the most part, you really got to teach people. And I think it's unique. I keep saying maybe a javelin thrower might cross the knee over the midline, but you know, all the other events, that knee goes straight ahead. You know, pole vault.
That's a good.
You know, in the high jump is the only one where you go, hey, we got to twist your back to the bar, so you got to drive it across the opposite shoulder, right? So it's like, okay, but you know, when I see one that's that outrageous, I mean, I literally, I saw what you said, it was 204, 205. I go, 205, that's like 6'8 3/4. I go, that knee drive is just monstrous. So, you know, I've been working a lot with my jumpers on just hip flexor strength, you know, doing, I call them auxiliaries because, you know, auxiliary strength, meaning, I don't know, not extra or whatever, but, you know, most people cover their lifting with the squats, you know, hang cleans, snatch, you know, deadlifts, everybody hits those, you know, one way or another. But you don't always find maybe the attention being, you know, given to, I've started working on trying to get my jumpers to drive their arms up over their head, you know, so I'm like, I'm strengthening these muscles through here so that they really get elevated. I'm like, if you're going to run up and jump, and, you know, you see these basketball players that jump ginormously high, I'm like, how are they doing that? You never see guys run up and go like this, you know, tiny little arms. I'm like, no, they jump up and then they leave those arms up and they go grab stuff, you know. So I'm like, let's jump up there as high as we can, and then we can do something with our arms once we're in the air, you know. So we've been attacking the shoulders, anterior deltoids, as far as getting your arms up, and then I want to strengthen my lats so I can pull them back down, you know, while I'm in the air. And then I've been working that sequence that you do with that great knee drive, and then you know, reversing it, popping that hip back down. So I keep telling them, I go, hey, that knee drive is important, get that hip flexor strong, but then we got to take it the other way and strengthen up your glute, you know, so you can pop that hip on.
I did a lot of,
Awesome.
Yeah, I did a lot of that kind of training with when I was focusing more on high jump and long jump, with the hip flexors, glutes, getting them strong. And I think core is also very important in high jump, even though I'm not a technical genius, but I think that's important.
I've been trying to do stuff where you're resisting, you know how some people go right into the bar. So they're running fast, but then I always go, is it just that their core is weak? Like, why do they bail so early sometimes, right? Instead of hitting vertical and going up, like just keeping that core tight, like you're saying. So I'm trying to do more both side to side core, because I think everybody does this. Everybody,
and those like,
but it's like, the twisting and the just leaning, you know, sideways, and having that power to resist. I use an analogy of a black hole in the middle of the high jump pit, because I go, as you run at the bar, it seems like there's so much energy that's going basically the wrong direction. You know, the speed is important, but the faster you're going, the more likely you are to bail, unless you can channel that force into upward lift, right? With your the knee drive and the arm drive and all that other stuff, we're kind of redirecting it as it's going up. So I'm like, hey, that black hole, is basically all set to win. You know,
Yeah.
you always end up in the pit. You know, you always end up going. I have yet to coach a jumper who has managed to jump back towards. Nobody's strong. You know, it just
Yeah,
doesn't.
right.
Unless you radically slow down, you know, yeah, then you can do it. But if you're accelerating through, you get pulled over by the black hole anyway. So
That's the thing.
yeah.
But it's running the curve that might be difficult for some, or especially me. I do struggle a bit because, yeah, hitting the curve is like, I think it's like, it's so little I can make it feel so put it off.
Right.
So when you're running the curve and trying to take off without going too much into the bar,
Right.
It's something I do work a lot with.
Yeah. Well, there's I'll send you a couple of drills that I've come up with.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
That Doug Nordquist is a friend of mine that I listen to whenever I get a chance, because he was in the Olympic Games in '84. He jumped 230 something. He jumped 7.6, or he jumped in the trials. I can't remember the heights. I'm so bad at all the different ones. I know he jumped 7.7 at one point and 7.6. He came in 5th in '84. He'll probably correct me. He'll send me a text or something. And say, you messed it all up. But he was one of the most outrageous curve runners that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Person. He was, 6'5", about 160 pounds, and super fast. And just, when he ran his curve, he would go over to like a 45-degree angle. And he did end up jumping 7.8 3/4, which is, I should know the numbers, 236, something like that.
That's crazy.
He was, just outrageous. So whenever I'm showing something, if I get a chance, sometimes I might send him the video and say, how does this look to you? Because, he's critical without being, mean about it. He's just like, because he was so good. I've never seen anybody run a curve like Doug did. But so negotiating the curve is huge. And like I said, you're one of the disadvantages you might have. You look like you're pretty, big kid. So, that the upper body weight as you're going fast, that tends to get pulled, so you got to be even better at running on the curve. But there's a few tricks in there for sure. I was, in high school, I didn't have a curve. I mean, I was like, I think my width was about 20 feet wide, which whatever that is in meters, I don't know, like 6 meters. I was like really wide. So not much of a curve, just kind of flat.
Yeah, that's.
And when I got to UCLA, they're like, what are you doing out there? Like, you gotta come over here, and run tighter and run this curve.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 2 years of like, I had no idea what to do with that thing, so running curves is, it's, you learn it eventually. But
but I think that's the thing that you can see when you see a proper high jumper like Marcin or someone in Olympics or World Championships. It's ridiculous how fast they're running the curve.
Oh my
God. You
God.
would think it was, because it's like, it's seeing on the television, it's like, oh, they're high jumpers. It's not like 100 meters. But if you see it for me, I've seen it in Bishop Games, you would think they were a 100 meters runner. They run so fast into the curve.
Yep.
And they take off like, many meters away from the bar. It's
oh my gosh, yeah. Barshim's
crazy.
A mile out. I have never seen anybody take off so far out. And the hardest thing for me, working with both some of the athletes and then some of my younger, I call them clients and athletes at the high school level. But, when they're first starting, I'm like, okay, the number one enemy to great high jumping is being too close to the bar, by far.
Yeah.
Because it just teaches you so many bad habits. I mean, people don't realize when they're right next to the bar what that does to you. I'm like, number one, right as you're starting to drive your knee up and your arms up, your brain is going, you're too close. So it'll shut you down. It'll stop you from getting your arms all the way up, and you'll start to drop them. You won't bring the knee all the way up, and you'll start to drop that. You'll throw your head back earlier because you have to. You're out of time almost before you've left the ground. You're out of time. So I'm like, it's easy to say to those people, you got to move farther out. But if you watch them, when you move them farther out, they come running up and then they won't pull the trigger. They won't jump.
Yeah, right.
Because their
You
brain
feel
is
it's like a
telling them,
mental block. Yeah.
now I'm too far away. I'm never going to make it in there. I'm like, come on, I'll tell them, what are you, like a 17-foot long jumper? They go, yeah. I go, you're 4 feet away. You're going to get in there. Just trust me,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, getting them over that is so difficult. But like you said, I would like to be able to take them and transport them to one of these meets and just go, when you see how far out away from the bar they are, and like you said, how fast they're running, and when they launch into the area, like you have no problem figuring out that they're going to get there. So yeah, number one, knee drive. Number two, don't be too close to the bar.
Yeah,
that's one of my
definitely.
bugaboos as a coach. It's like,
Mm.
I'm telling you, but it slows the event
But
down.
it's
When
yeah,
you're
and it's
farther
like
out, you can finish everything.
and it's like something that is a bad habit to have, being too close, because when you're getting a bit further out, it's just a mental block. It's you have to kind of then you have to work again to not feel so far out.
And sometimes it's just a super gradual change. It depends on the athlete. You just keep nudging slowly, and it finally comes out. And other times you can, try to make the switch. I don't know.
Yeah, people are different. Yeah,
I've tried everything. I've got a couple tricks that I found. I had one athlete who was jumping about. His best was around 2 meters, probably like 195. And at the big meets, he didn't have the success that he wanted. And I tried to recruit him for a couple of years, and I finally told him, Jack, I'm like, I've got to get you farther away from the bar. And his senior year in high school, we started working together. Started in the summer, so we had almost a year to get ready for his senior year at the state meet. And you want to talk about a battle about getting somebody farther away from the bar. And I'm not sure that I actually totally succeeded, but we succeeded enough to where he jumped 210 or 209.
That's good.
610, whatever that is. 210 is 610 3/4. So it was probably 208 or 209, whatever comes closest to 610. And even then, I remember watching the film later, going, if I could get him a little further out and get him to wait just a little bit longer, but it is a struggle for some people.
But did you say do you train for a whole year? Don't you have an indoor season?
See, that's the weird thing about being out here. We got to get you over here, Abraham, because there is no indoor season. If you come out here to California, it's 2 nights.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Obviously.
There's no need for an indoor training facility because the sun shines like 330 days a year. So, when it does rain, we go inside and chill for the day.
Probably not very often.
Or it's just not that often. And the next day it's all dry, because California is basically a desert. So, even if you do get rain, it gets absorbed so fast, and then it's just back to normal. So, if you're in the on the West Coast, if you go up north to Seattle, now you've got
been there.
They've got a lot of indoor facilities up there because it rains so much that they're more likely to rain than not. So they do that. And then in the Midwest, it gets really cold. Midwest and East. So past a certain range, that stuff comes in. I've competed at 2 indoor meets my entire life, and I hated both of them because we just weren't prepared for them. There was wood surface, which with your spikes, it was just awkward. Spikes were digging into wood, and I hated it. 2 different times I came to go there, and I was just like, I want to go to an indoor meet where they have, the fast surface and the rubberized with the maybe even wood underneath that, but for a little springboard effect. But we just out here, it's a different animal. So
we definitely have that over here in Norway. It's not mostly rain, but it's not very good weather. It's like, what would that be for you guys? At least 10 degrees, 20 degrees in the summer. So we have indoor season, which is often very good. We have good stadiums. Never jumped in the wooden surface before. So
man, awful. I I keep wanting, this is so great that we're getting a chance to talk. Again, we're talking with Abraham Vogelsang from Norway, decathlete / high jumper, his favorite event, the one that I saw. But I'm hoping to catch more stuff on your feed with all your other events. But we're talking with him about training over in the darker, colder places. And I've got one athlete, Barbara Pachoka from Canada, and she told me that in the times that before she was training, she was cross country skiing everywhere.
Oh yeah.
It's snowing up there, and my brain is like, you do what now? Cross country ski. I'm like, that's like her way of getting around, so it's like,
yeah,
like, so you're snowed in and you go cross country skiing. I'm like, that's not usually the off-season training that I would pick for the high jump, but you got to do what you got to do. So,
you got to do what you got to do. Yeah, it's crazy in Norway. It's like my father can in the winter go skiing to his job, for instance.
right.
Just like, you never know. You never know.
That's awesome. Well, listen, Abraham, I've taken up a bunch of your time. I'm really appreciative of the fact that when I reached out to you, that you were willing to work with me. We had a lot of technical difficulties. I think we actually were trying to do this a couple months ago, but Abraham's been patient with us, and we got this done on a Saturday. I'm getting ready to head off to a couple of track meets we have today. The high schoolers are competing at one of their big meets, and then one of my college kids is jumping, and Barbara is jumping also at this, they call it the last chance meet. So we got to get rolling along, but let's stay in touch, young man.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm a big fan of yours. I can't wait to hear how you do at this meet, the Nordic Championships, and obviously the World's coming after that. And send me anything and everything you want me to post, videos of you jumping. I'd love to see. Like I said, I'm that guy that wants to peek behind the curtain, like,
that's very important.
What are they doing in other countries? How are they training these athletes that are so awesome? I want to know so I can use it on my kids. So
that's nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me. It's been an honor.
All right, sir.
Looking forward.
Yeah, we're looking forward to great things. Thanks for your time, man.
Good luck.
All right, you too, bud.
Bye.
Bye.